Hello, hello.
Hey, what's up? Nice
What's
kickers
going
in the
on?
building.
Volume up. We live. We here. We right. Gotta figure out which way I'm looking. I'm looking up here. What's going on, Miss
Hi,
Ray?
everyone. Hey, girl, what's going on?
What's up?
How are you this fine Thursday
I'm
evening? I should
great.
say over
And I like
here.
that you're wearing the 82 because it's making me remember my birthday's coming.
Oh, God, you do this every year. She'd be like, it's just whatever. Like, it's just, and it's whatever. And then once we get close, she'd be like, oh, it's the countdown.
It's the countdown
And
with 10 days.
I'm like, yo, every year before him, what we doing? What we doing? I ain't really gonna do nothing. It's just no, it's whatever. It's whatever. And then it'd be, oh my God, it's my birthday.
Gemini season officially starts tomorrow.
Mm.
Dang, the shade is
Well, I
real.
love Gemini. Y'all are like my favorites.
I'm like, that's the current event.
Yeah.
You're my favorite. It's funny, I met a Gemini when I was hiking. She was mad cool. My
Hiking.
best friend's a Gemini, a Libra. I'm like, my best friend's a Libra, blah, blah.
You was hiking?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go? That's nice. Hiking up the mountains.
That's LA shit.
That's rough.
It's West Coast shit. That's what they do here. People work out. Little hikes and stuff. But Dapper and I went hiking the workout and it was rough. Like I haven't run in a long time because I was trying to gain weight. So it was the struggle because it's uphill. And I'm like, I can't do it. It was really, really, really hard.
So y'all was running, not hiking.
Well, it's technically a hike, but it did like a short little sprint.
Yeah, sprints. Yeah.
Well, not really sprint, actually. I think a sprint is when you go really fast. So we did a little sprint going down, but a jog. There you go. I'm like, why
okay, jog. Yeah.
But I was born with a hole in my heart, so I was like, I can't do this. My heart, blah blah. And it's just you got to stay active because when I was running around the apartment, my block or whatever, that every day I was fine. Like the first 3-4 days were really challenging, and then I got rhythm and started.
Yes, your body will start. Yeah.
So it's like now getting back to running because I haven't done cardio so long trying to gain weight, which is still not even happening. So I don't know. So lose.
I'm sure there's something out there you could find.
Yeah.
To help that. Because there's a couple of people I know that went through that thing where they were trying to gain weight and they tried different programs or, diet and things and it helped.
Yep. Now I'm just working on the muscles. I'm getting the little.
Yeah, you're getting the definition.
You see it? You see
it? Yeah, I see it right there,
me. I'm working on these biceps and triceps and chest.
Yes. That is so good.
But, yeah, you'll see. But anyway, what's up, everybody? This is Nyce Kicks. We do this every week, 8:00 Eastern, 5:00 Pacific. So if you're just tuning in, welcome. Thank you for taking a moment to watch this live if you're here with us live, or if you just happen to come across Nyce Kicks on YouTube and you're watching it post-production. Thank you for watching this episode on parenting. I'm Stizzo, and my partner is
Lisa Marie
in the building. And so we always kick off with current events, and it's funny because I was like, we don't even have any current events really happening.
Well, there is one that it actually pertains to the topic.
Oh, okay.
Which is crazy because yesterday, I think it was yesterday, either yesterday or today, Biden had announced that he will be giving all families with more than one child, I think it's when you have one child or more or something, you will get a tax credit per month starting July 15th to the end of the year in your bank account. So if you have one child, you will get $250. And if you have two kids, you'll get $500 a month from the IRS, basically every month until the end of the year.
That ain't shit.
It ain't nothing, but it's something.
I'm like,
it's something for not doing nothing.
I mean, you are doing something. You're paying your taxes every year. So it's like the amount of money we pay in taxes versus what they want to give back. And that's like, that was my whole thing with even the stimulus. and what they did for unemployment. Like, granted, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that that was an option. It was there, but like, yo, we pay so much money in taxes.
We do, but I think
so many
I don't ever remember anything like this happening, where they're just giving money away like that, because it's usually they're taking money. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, that's great. And me as a parent, I'm like, I could always use the extra money. So the extra $500, I'm like, hell yeah. So that goes every single month. That's additional on top of whatever else you got going on.
So you're telling me my time to have gotten pregnant was 2019 COVID.
Pretty much. Well, actually before that, because you would want to have 2 kids. So
oh, damn, that's a lot.
So I was like, is this for real? And then I kept seeing the news, and then I was on TikTok earlier, and you know, people making their funny TikToks with when they do like the duos or whatever next to remix. When he was talking. It was so funny. I'm like, this is hilarious right now. But I'm like, yeah, it's really happening starting July 15th.
That's all the parents out there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there goes my birthday gift in July.
Right. I'm like, you will see that shit in July.
Truthfully, my birthday gift is like you, Racine, Alex, Kemp, everybody coming out for Louviane in June. Like, that really, for me,
it's not though. Not from me, it's not.
That's the gift. That's the gift. I love my people around, you know, good vibrations, and I miss you guys. So that's my gift right there. So thank you to Ray for popping out, Alex, Kemper. It's gonna be vibes in June. It's gonna be a really good time. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
If you're watching and you want to grow,
I was gonna say, tell them about it, girl.
Make sure you come to LA in June for Louviane LA. And you can go to my Instagram at Stizzle Speaks and click the link in my bio to find out about tickets. It's going to be vibes. But we only want the people who are ready to grow and like about something. If you're not, you can stay home.
Positive vibes only.
Positive vibes only. All right. Yes. What we getting into? Let's kick it off. What we talking about?
We are talking about parenting. Wow. It's an interesting topic because someone I was talking to earlier, like, just, you know, go after posting the flyers, you know, people always DM me after, and, you know, they got stuff to say, whatever. But they were like, you're doing this one solo?
Why? Because I'm not a parent?
Yes. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm doing it with Stizzo. But it was kind of funny. But I'm like, yeah, I'm like, parenting is a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot to talk about. There's so many aspects in it. You know what I mean? But I'm interested to see your, actually, I think I kind of know what your idea of parenting is.
Yeah.
Even though you're not a parent, but still, you know what I mean? Idea of it.
And not for nothing, like, I have parents, so, you know, I can speak on my childhood, growing up, you know, not having my father around for so long. And also, like, I'm a godmother, so at the same time, I'm still technically a parent. I've had many situations with Aiden, who's my godson, if you guys are watching, who's actually Lisa's son, taking him out and doing things with him where I had to be the adult. And it's like, you know, they teach you so much, like, it teaches you so much. And it's crazy how you have to be able to pivot and, like, just be present. Like, there's so much that comes with having a little being in your presence. Like, it's crazy, you know. But, you know, parenting is anywhere from, you know, parenting a small child to parenting a grown-ass adult. Like, my mom is still my parent. She still parents me in a sense, even though I'm doing that thing. So yeah,
which is so crazy you said that, because I definitely want to talk about that later too, where it's like you are still, as an adult, being parented by your parent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, she can only do so much, but she be trying.
Well, right, only so much, but you know that same, like, energy is still there, you know.
And if she asked me to have a kid one more time, like,
she's on it, huh?
If y'all know my mom, just text her and tell her, like, to relax. Like, she even asked, I won't say on live, but she was like, "Can you just give her some sperm?" And I'm like, seriously? Like, this is what we're doing? She's crazy.
That's rough.
But yeah, so let's get into it.
That's rough. That's rough. Mm-hmm. So parenting, Um, that shit's hard. I'm like, I don't even want to look at my notes right now. I'm gonna just talk off the cuss. Like, I'm serious. Like, it's hard to be a parent. Number one, it changes your life to become a parent. And I think, and I'd never like to take away from the men, because I know that men play a huge role in kids' lives. But as a woman and you bearing a child, it's a lot, just from the whole process of it, it's a lot. So just to have that, it changes your life completely. You know what I mean? You're one person one day, and then you pop a kid out, and you're literally changed forever once you pop that kid out. Like, it is instant, like instant ramen noodles. It is instant, like fast. So it's very hard. There's so many challenges. There's so much involved in parenting, because I think uh you know people have different styles of parenting. There's different ways of parenting. There's different ways of discipline. We'll kind of dive into all of that in a little bit. There's also tips that you parents can give other parents, or even those that are caretakers. There's different type of parents where, you know parents who haven't birthed the child but maybe adopted a child. Or you have same sex situations where there's that part of it too. There's foster care. There's so many levels to parenting. It's like this big wide topic, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there's levels to the parenting.
There's levels to the parenting. So what do you want to start with? The parenting styles. There's definitely lots of parenting styles.
And if you guys are watching live, drop your comments, or if there's questions you have about parenting. Just to recap, Lisa has 2 boys, 8 and 1 who will be 5 soon, so 4 going on 5.
Yeah.
So she has some years of experience. I don't have any children, biological children, but I do have my godson. So I've parented in that aspect. I've also parented like as a teenager, or even before a teenager, because I was like 12 when I was taking care of my younger sister. So
I was gonna say,
in terms of parenting styles, like my mom was very much into like, I'm her baby. I'm like her gold, right? I think because I was the girl, because I have an older brother, so I wasn't the first child. I'm technically, I think, the middle child. But she was very protective, like overprotective of me, also because of what she went through in terms of her childhood trauma and being molested. So like she literally would hold me very tight, and I was in pageants when I was young. I learned how to iron when I was 3, but she was more so strict in a sense of like she didn't want me involved in certain things, but also a little lax because she was on drugs. So I spent a lot of time with older people, like kind of raising myself in a sense, and in the streets. Not that my mom was bad by any means. Like, I love my mom. I adore my mom. She made mistakes. But she's also taught me a lot of lessons. But her style was a little bit more strict in certain areas. And then there's other times, like when I'm on drugs, where I literally don't care. I just want you out the house. And so I spent a lot of time in the streets as a result of that, with people much older, as I said. And my father was around for like my younger years, as far as I can remember. And then he ended up getting married. I lived with him for a period of time, and that was hell, hell on wheels, because he had 2 kids, and like those kids with his wife were treated way better than he treated me and my brother. So it was just not a place for me to be in. But he wasn't very strict in terms of his discipline. And I don't know if the church has something to do with it, but I don't remember him being necessarily a strict parent. And then I went back to live with my mom from there. And then my father kind of like phased out. Not that he disappeared, but I think there's a lot of kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he feels bad about not being a part of my life. So he didn't know how to bridge the gap, and like how to come to with having a connection with me. And when he did, it was always, I'll send you a birthday card. He'd send me a birthday card every year. When I was in college, on with $50. I still remember it. My mom never put him on child support, so it was like, that's literally what I got every year. And for me, like, the money didn't even matter. I'm like, damn, I just want my dad to like have a
Mm-hmm.
place and like to see how I'm doing. I'm a grown woman
Mm-hmm.
now, like what's going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really had that. So I feel like he feels bad for not being able to break the communication, the lack of communication, like break the cycle. And what he did is like also me trying to come to a place where I forgive him enough to like say, you know what, let me be the person that reaches out because he's
Mm-hmm.
older, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's still a part of me that's like I'm the child, like I'm the kid, so you have to do better. But I know that's a part of me that I have to heal and mend, or else I'll just never move on in that part of my life. But yeah, not that was their styles. If that answers the question.
Yeah. So I think too sometimes when you go when you have a child and you become a parent, you want to almost parent them the same way that you were parented in a sense. I feel like it can go either way. It can
Mm-hmm.
go in the way of this is how I was brought up, this is how I turned out, so this is how I'm going to parent my kid. Or it
Mm-hmm.
can be I didn't like this way or this style, so I'm going to be opposite of that and do the opposite. And for me, like my mom, she was very, she suffered from mental illness so basically her whole life, and she was someone who she struggled to discipline me in a sense because she had her own struggles to deal with, so it was kind of like let me just get by, you know
Right.
what I mean? So I definitely was a wild child.
Was
Very No, I was a wild
you're
child.
still wild.
um and just live with it like crazy, like I'm gonna do me, I'm just out here, I don't care, I would talk back, like I was
Mm-hmm.
very, very crazy. And there was only a couple times where she popped me, and that was like just very rare, but it was my aunt, my cousin's mother, who really disciplined me and would be like, send her over here and be whooping my ass. And I'm like, really? Like, this is what we're doing right now? Like, I want to go back home. People would love to come to my house because they're like, we can do whatever the fuck we want to do over here. You know
Right.
what I mean? Um, but I knew that I wanted to be not necessarily a lenient parent, but
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be able to discipline, but still be able to take some of the qualities that my mother had with me. And one of those things is by having her always there for me to talk to. Like I was a 7-year-old kid and would be like, can we go in the living room and have a conversation? Like, can we
Mm.
talk about our day? You know what I mean? There's a lot of kids that just don't have that mindset. And I see that in my oldest son, MJ. He's
Mm-hmm.
very much like that. He's very much open about his feelings and his emotions. And as Black men or Black boys, I want them to be able to speak up on how they feel. So if something's bothering them, or something's angering them, I want them to be able to talk about it. Where we grew up in an era where it was like, you're a child, like shut the fuck up, like
Stay
you
in a
don't have
child's
nothing to
place.
say.
Right.
Right, you're in a child's place, you know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
think at the end of the day, like we know they're children, but we're so that your childhood is what grooms you as a person when you grow older. Because you think of a lot of the issues we have as adults, it's because of our childhood, what
Mm-hmm.
happened within our childhood. So that's really like the foundation or the blueprints in the beginning of how you are as an adult. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the things, like if you're spoiled, if if you were abusive or abused, like those are all triggers that you go through as a child that stick with you as an adult, because you always think like in therapy or in episodes or things where you're having discussions with people in a relationships or whatever, it always goes back to, as a child, this happened, and as a
Mm-hmm.
result of that, that's why I'm this way now. So I think it's just really understanding that as a parent, when you do become a parent, that I need to know how I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
and how I was parented, what I didn't like, what I did like, what worked for
Right.
me. Because we can even talk about the disciplinary thing. It's like I've heard people say, well, I would get my ass whooped and I'm fine. You know what I mean? And for some people, that's traumatic. You know what I mean? And for some people, that can be considered abuse. I've seen kids literally that I've had friends where their kids, they've literally abused the fuck, like punched them and abused them. Like, to me, that's like a whole nother level. Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying I don't beat my kids because I have put hands on them, but it's a different level. It's a different level to what, you know, it was when we was growing up, if that makes sense. Or even when our parents was growing up.
Right. I mean, it's not as easy to put your hands on any kid nowadays because the kids know 911, they'll call DSS. Like, it's crazy because, like you said, when we were younger, like, I remember mom grabbed me by my hair once because I called my dad on her. And, like, it was the ultimate level of disrespect for her because, again, my dad was absent. So, like, how dare I go call him when she's the one raising us? So, yeah, it was back then. But I think also with the leniency, like, that's key and important. Like, sometimes I'll see people that are so strict with their children and telling them what they can't do, putting that upon them, and then they end up rebelling, right? And I feel like one thing that I was really thankful for is that my mom, I mean, part of it was the drugs, right? Her not wanting us around was kind of just like, go do things that help. But I was in a dance group, and I literally spent a lot of time just being out of the house. I always was going to Tia's house when I was younger, going to projects, hanging out. But I wasn't ever doing like real terrible, horrible, bad things. Yes, I was drinking and smoking when I was underage. But, you know, I lost my virginity at 18. I followed a path that I think was semi decent based on what I see nowadays. And I think that's tied to a lot of the fact that my mom, in certain aspects, kind of like let me grow as a person, and, you know, wasn't so strict with like, no, you can't this, you can't do that. Like, her biggest thing honestly was like boys. Like, that was the thing. She just didn't want me to be in that place again because of her childhood trauma. And I remember like my high school boyfriend being in my house, and it was like, oh shit, that's really happening. Like, that was a a crazy moment that I will never forget because it was like my mom was never down for that shit. But it was her being like, you know what, I don't want my child rebelling, so let me do what I need to do to make her feel like she can trust me and come to me with anything. And I appreciate that. And I feel like I'll be a cool mom, even though I always said for a very long time I didn't want kids. I don't want kids. It's a lot of work. I'm very selfish in a way where I want to get up and go and not worry about someone else. Like, make plans change. Like, there's so much that comes with, I should say, being a parent, and like knowing that it's no longer about you. Like, like, everything changes. There's aspects and there's things that, you know, obviously you have to do to take care of yourself, even you as a mom. But like 99.999% of your life now is about your kids. It's not like the decisions you make are about your children. It's just like being in a relationship. When you're in a relationship, half of that shit is about the other person. Like, every decision you make has to come with half compromise for what else you're in a relationship with. And when you have kids, it's that times 10, because now you have a whole being that you're responsible for, and you have this, you know, weight over your head, making sure or trying to make sure you're doing the right thing or saying the right thing and being in the right headspace for someone else. And that's challenging. I've seen it. I've been there with you times. I've been there with my mom through times because I have younger siblings. And it's like, I commend anyone who's a parent, whether you're a dad or a mom, your dad taking care of the kids solely, or your mom taking care of the kids solely, like single parent, or if you're in a great working relationship taking care of children. It's a lot of work. And it's expensive.
That part. Yeah, it's expensive as hell. I don't know how people are have multiple kids, because it's expensive. That was another thing for me too. Like, I didn't want, I mean, growing up, I wanted 6 kids just because my favorite show was the Cosby Show. And I swear that was going to be my whole life. Like, lawyer, doctor, like, you know what I'm saying? House, 6 kids. They were at that. I swear was going to be my life. And after that first one, I was like, oh no, I don't know. This is a lot. Like, holy shit. I am not prepared for this. This is a lot. And then ended up having Aiden. And I'm like, okay, this is definitely too much. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is got to, because I also think you have to recognize a point in your life where uh you need to be okay saying when you have to have that selfish moment at the end of the day too, not only for you but for the children that you already have, and saying like, all right, this is enough for me to be able to maintain my mental health,
Mm-hmm.
my life, and also these other children that I have. You know, I think it's a lot harder when you have like a lot of kids,
Mm-hmm.
unless you got money, because at that point you could do whatever
Hire
when you
whoever.
have money, because you can have a whole nanny, you can have people traveling with you can legit buy your village. You know what I mean? They
Mm-hmm.
say it takes a village to raise children, and it really does. You could buy your village at any time.
Right.
So I think that that's it. But I think, you know, parenting styles can definitely affect, you know, the way your child grows up and the way your child behaves.
Right.
And it's really about altering in the moment of what you need to say to your child. And it also depends on age, because every age there's different challenges and there's different
Mm-hmm.
levels to it. You know, a toddler is someone who is experiencing the environment in the world. They really don't understand, you know, no, and all of these things. So it's like you have to kind of adapt to that. Then you have, you know, the preteen, I guess, stage,
Mm-hmm.
your teenager years, and then going into your adulthood. But your childhood, in a sense, is a very short span of your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And that even depends on when you grow up. You know, I had to grow up faster than a lot of people. But on paper, in the society, you know, you're becoming an adult when you're 21. That's
Mm-hmm.
only 21 years of your life. The rest of most people live 80, you know, 70, 80. So there's mad years after. So most of your life is adulthood. So it's really just doing the best that you can within those years and those pockets that you have with the kids.
Right. And those first 21, I mean, it's really like the first, for some people, first 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but the first 21 years of like the childhood phase is so critical in terms of what's going to happen when that child becomes an adult. Like that
Mm-hmm.
nurturing phase is so important, and that's where it's sad to see some of the situations that kids are in, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
their home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why I commend anyone who's like a foster parent or adopted a child, and doing the right thing, right? Like not doing
Mm-hmm.
it just for the money and like not really
Right.
taking care of the kids or
Right.
the preteens, whatever they are. But you know, I commend those people for taking on such a large responsibility, and you know, they're not their biological children, or even people who have kids that end up with a disability. Like that's a whole nother level of difficulty to deal with, and
Mm-hmm.
like those early years are so precious. So it's like what you're teaching them early on really matters in terms of what's going to happen later in life. Shout out to Outlet LA being on the live. We see everything. I just tuned in. We're Nice Kicks. We do this every Thursday, and we're talking about parenting this episode. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about, me, because you have kids and you went through this phase of COVID, right? Because that was a big transition for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of parents, when COVID-19 happened, because homeschool became a thing,
Mm-hmm.
whereas previously homeschool was like looked down upon. It's like if you was being homeschooled, like you got money, or like
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with you. They ain't, like if you didn't show up to school, they had to, what was it, the truancy police or whatever, coming looking for you. I don't know if that's the correct word, but I feel like that's what it
Yeah,
sounds
I
like.
know what
But
you mean. Yes.
yeah, so it's like now that turned into like you are parenting from home, or homeschooling rather, parenting from home. Essentially, you're working from home and homeschooling, and dealing with some people 6 kids, some people twins, and then other children. Like I can only imagine the amount of stress and craziness that happened in certain households. And the flip side, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
great things I'm sure came out of COVID-19, and people working from home and being parents and parenting
Mm-hmm.
from home and having their kids with them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us a little bit about like what that experience was like for you. Like what was pre-COVID like being a parent, then
Mm-hmm.
turning into being in the midst of COVID and having to be at home and homeschool kids with two different ages and two different levels
Mm-hmm.
of school.
Yeah,
That
I
was a
think No, yeah, I get it. I think prior to COVID, life was busy. And, I think that can be the case for anybody. But I think when you're a parent and you have to juggle a child, not only that, multiple children, it can be very taxing on you, and it's busy. So you're just going day to day, and, you may have your routines. We had a lot of routines. It's like school, weekends, we're doing this, nighttime, homework, boom, 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 checking in. And then COVID hit, and it was like, what you mean schools are closed? Like, who closes schools? We only do that during the snow days out in the
Right.
east. So, how that work? Then it was like, they might go back in May. Oh no, they ain't going back. I'm like, what? This is so it was very hard. It was very, very hard because at that point you now have everybody in your household that is learning this new way of style. And as a parent, you don't think that you think of yourself as a teacher, as a mentor, as these type of things, but not on the professional level of a teacher in that aspect. Like the schools and school systems are there for a reason. You know what I mean? And you send your kids to schools to get whatever education you have for them, right? Whatever education they're in for. So for you to have to manage that and be able to be the teacher and help them through it, especially with multiple children. Like I had one kid who was in like a daycare going into pre-K, and then MJ, my oldest, was in first grade.
Right.
So it's in two different aspects. And then going into the new school year where you have the system saying, "Oh no, they ain't going back. They going into a new grade in COVID, still remote."
Right.
So that was hard too. And it was hard for the children. It's very, very hard for the children. But I think the one positive thing that I got out of it as a parent was I felt like I've grown a greater connection with both of my kids
Right.
because we were able to spend so much time together. And God damn it, they got on my nerves. And I know I got on their nerves. I know I got on their because they got feelings. Their feelings is just as valid as mine. They just don't pay no bills. But their feelings is still valid as mine, just as valid as mine. And so I know we all got on each other's nerves, but it was challenging. So now they're back in school. And so it's starting to feel like a little bit of normalcy for everyone, but it's still not, for me personally, it's still not 100%. And then also, I went from pre-COVID and COVID in a two-parent household for my kids to now being in separate households with their dad, and that being a whole different mix. So the parenting now we have to co-parent, and co-parenting is a whole nother thing because that can be extremely challenging as well, and it's very hard on the kids also, especially when they're younger.
Right. 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 Thanks to COVID, hella people got kids they didn't want, but it's a wanting them then. Well, yeah, at
Yeah,
that point there were probably a lot of people shacking up and
I know mad
getting
people that's
busy.
pregnant right now and about to drop babies.
Yeah, we have a couple people, that I've seen recently. I'm like, oh, kids coming, and then again, not that it's a bad thing, but um, yeah. So co-parenting, because that's a big topic for people too. Like, what does healthy co-parenting actually look like? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know there's people out there that co-parents and it's not a healthy situation. Like either
Mm-hmm.
the mother is holding the child over the father's head and like just being real spiteful because the situation didn't work out between the two of them. So now it's
Mm-hmm.
like we gonna co-parent, but I'm still gonna be the legal guardian and make all the decisions. So I'm not really
Mm-hmm.
allowing you to co-parent in that sense. Like there's a lot that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel more so like women do that than the men. I could be
I
wrong.
do too.
Like a lot of women are spiteful in that sense. Or the
I
other
do
flip
too.
side is the men that don't really step up to the plate when it comes to co-parenting and they kind of just continue to do their thing and move on and see the kid when they feel like they want to, or they just
Mm-hmm.
pay child support and that's the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you're in the process, like what does healthy co-parenting look like for you, and what would you give as a tip for those out there that are struggling to co-parent?
I think the biggest thing is communication.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like, I mean, think of how many episodes we talked about with relationships, friendships, workships, businesses, entrepreneurship, all of this stuff, right? And communication is always the top
Mm-hmm.
for any of that. So I think having that communication and having the boundaries with each other is extremely important. And just being able to still be cordial with each other and still, in a sense, like helping each other out. So it's like, all right, these are your days, but you have this going on. So you need that. Let me see what I can do to work on that. Vice versa. You have this trip, you got this going on. Okay, I'm usually not with the kids then, but let me try to make something work. I think you have to really come together as a unit when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to co-parenting to ensure that you're not adding any extra drama into the children's lives, because there's already drama in their lives where your parents aren't together anymore. So that makes a big difference for them. So they're already going through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would say the biggest thing is just the communication piece. And for women, like, don't hold your kids over over your child's father. Like, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
Right.
the worst thing you could do for the child, no matter what. And people get jealous, and people get in their feelings, like maybe somebody moved on with someone, and then you use the kids as pawns. um and that's just not a good situation, because again, at the end of the day, it's only going to hurt the child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's only going to hurt the child.
Right.
But I think also too, like, again, having the schedules and keeping some routine where, we have rules here in my house, and they're very similar rules to what is in their father's house. So
Mm-hmm.
we have that communication of, these are the rules. So it's not good. It's not where, well, when I'm at daddy's, I could do this. When I'm at
Right.
mommy's, I could do this. So really trying to keep those boundaries within each household similar, if that makes
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
within the
Because you
kid.
still have to create and not necessarily just create, but maintain the foundation and the
Right.
structure so that they're in physical two different places, but mentally and emotionally they're not in two different places in terms of how their mom treats them, how the dad treats them, again, what they can get away with, what they can't. And that's crucial, right? Because that could create chaos in the other
Mm-hmm.
household. If it's like, oh, okay, well, mom lets me eat after 9 o'clock, I can have a snack, but daddy says no, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
pitting them against each other. And that can even happen in the same household
Yes, a
when
hundred
mom's at
percent.
work or daddy's at work and there's two different things happening, and, oh, you can play the game now, or no, you can't play the game. Like, that's chaotic too.
Mm-hmm.
And that really comes down to, like you said, the communication between the parents to make sure like everyone's on the same page and like has the best interest for the kids at heart versus the best interest for each other solely.
Mm-hmm.
Is, I think,
And you got to
important.
take the selfishness out of it, from what you want or what you see or what you don't want. You have to
Mm-hmm.
take that out of it and just say, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do. A lot of times too, parents fight over money. There's
Mm-hmm.
child support cases. There's so many different things out there with that. Um, and it's just like, just please, just take care of your kids. You know what I
Right.
mean? And don't
Right.
use these outlets and these things unless it's necessary, because there
Mm-hmm.
are some women out there and there's some men out there who just are not, um, they're not, they're just not responsible enough.
I'm like, who's calling and messing with audio?
Now, can you hear
That's
me
the
now?
ring. Okay, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So damn, I lost my train of thought.
It was
Fucking hell.
about the money and the child support and that aspect.
Oh yes, like holding that over them. Right, exactly. Where it's like, if the kid needs something, the kid needs something. Hey, your kid needs this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But again, it depends on the relationship that you're getting out of as well. because you
Right.
have to still be two mature adults um,
Yep.
to kind of come to those terms. And I know a lot of people in my circle, and not necessarily in my circle, but just people I know overall, where they have a lot of issues
Mm-hmm.
with, their child's mother or child's father.
Right. Right. And again, this I think is specific to um, single parents that we're talking about right now. But when it comes to child support, like I mentioned earlier, my mom didn't put my father on child support our entire 18 years because I think it
Mm-hmm.
stops at when you're 18.
Right.
But he would send like $50 on a birthday kind of thing. And I remember asking her why she didn't do it. And pretty much she's like, it wasn't about the money. I just wanted your father to be present. And that shit
Mm,
hits because it's like it's because even now, and I feel like that's why so much so I'm that person who really doesn't care how much money a person makes. Like I'm
yeah,
getting emotional, and I don't like getting emotional because I literally barely get emotional about my dad. But I
I
don't
know.
really care how much someone makes. I don't care how famous you are. I don't care what you do for work. I don't care what kind of car you
Absolutely.
drive. And I feel like a part of that for me came from the fact that my mom kind of instilled in me without even knowing that money isn't the root cause of happiness, and like money isn't something you should chase. Like she didn't chase my dad to take care of us monetarily, but
Mm-hmm.
she wanted him to stay present for his two children that he had first, while he was taking care of his other children that came after
Mm-hmm.
financially, right? Because they got everything. I remember asking my dad for a computer, and he built computers, like literally built them. And I remember asking for a computer when I lived with him, and he was like, no, basically. And then my stepbrother, weeks later, it could have been
Got a
months, but maybe
computer.
as an adult thinking as a child, I think it was like weeks, but it could have been months, had a computer. And I was like,
Mm,
what the fuck? This is when like the Macs with the neon backs were a big thing. And I
mm.
was like so devastated. So for me, I don't ever look at how much money a person has. I feel like maybe that's tied to it.
It
But
is
when it
definitely.
comes to child support, I also see the side of it from the woman, because a lot of times it's where kids are expensive, children are expensive. There's a lot of things that need to be paid for. And I've had situations and talking to some men who are on child support where they're like, this is too much money, it's expensive. And it's like, well, raising a child is expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when they feel like it's too much, it's because of the relationship or the lack thereof that they have with their kid's mother. It's nothing to do with necessarily the financial piece of it, because you go spend $400 or $500 on some materialistic shit that don't matter. But when
Mm-hmm.
she's asking for $400 or $500 for your kids to go to summer camp or something, it's like, oh my God, you're up in arms. And it's like, that comes back to the relationship. So if you're in a situation where you're single parents and child support is involved, I think my point is to make sure it's more so about the health and wellness of the kids versus like, this is how much money I need to do ABC. Or like for the women to have the attitude behind it of just giving my money and that's all it's worth is the money. When it's like so much more, I think a lot of relationships could be built better if it wasn't about the money when it came to fathers who are quote unquote absent.
Right. Yeah, because that's hard too, because then, you think of people who share shared custody, and I may have them 50% of the time, you have them 50% of the time. And uh we're both paying for what we need to pay for, but still that person still has to pay a crazy amount of child support money. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it is usually on the father. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I think it's so different. And the system for that is shit. The system is literally it's shit. Um
The
I
system for a lot of shit.
I was just gonna say, yes, exactly. It is built on some greedy shit, because the states get money off of child support. They get
Mm-hmm.
percentages, they get paid off of that. So they're like, yeah, get all the money that we can, because we getting some of that anyway. Um, and that's the hard part. I think if it's for someone who's really not in that person's, the child's life, then you
Mm-hmm.
got to contribute in some way. You know what I mean? And you got to help, because if you're not going to be there physically, which you should be, but if you're not, then financially you got to step up. But when I think it's hard and it's tough when someone is doing all of that and still has to contribute so much money,
Right.
as well, on both sides. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
um that's a challenging piece.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is like the most challenging part of being a mom in today's society, based on like how you envisioned being a mom to look like versus actually getting into it and being like, oh, this is what being a mom is about. This is what having kids is about. And I know like when MJ and A came, it was like we didn't expect this shit to happen. It just kind of happened. I'll never forget the day you found out you were pregnant.
Me neither. Back in 19... No, sir.
What a time to be alive and be in Vegas, let me tell you. And if you've been watching Nyce Kicks for a while, you already know the story, so I won't beat a dead horse. But like, yeah, what based on what you envisioned as like that big house, family life, being a mom, versus like what are you most afraid of or most challenging being a mom now?
Yeah, I think I envisioned it to be a lot easier. I don't know why, but I envisioned it to be a lot easier and that I would manage it better. I think the most challenging part for me as a parent and as a woman is the balance of trying to not lose yourself. And this is my only title is I'm a mom because I'm so many other things. So I think that is the most challenging for me right now, I can say, and in the present state where I'm at right now with them, is trying to balance how can I be successful at my business that I started? How can I be successful as a great mom to them? How can I be successful as a maid and clean? You know what I mean? Like keeping a house together and making sure bills are paid and taken care of and all of that. So that is the biggest challenging piece for me is that because people have a lot. There's so much time in the world, and time flies. You have billionaires, millionaires who have the same exact 24 hours that we all share the same exact 24 hours. So it's all about what we do with our time. I think for me, the challenge is that it's the piece of where I have to dedicate so much stuff and time to them that I lose time within myself.
Right. And I would say, for me, because I've been around like their entire lives, MJ and Aiden, I've seen you as a mom. I've seen you in the position as a wife, a mother, a mentor, sister. Like I've seen it all. And I really feel like if you got MJ and Aiden involved in the business aspect, it would be amazing. And like so many women, especially because it's a lash business, right? And your fashion business, women could relate to that because I don't know of many women out here doing what you do as a mom and still keeping your physical appearance up to par like you do. Like it literally blows my mind because I don't even have kids and I want to roll out the bed and put sweats on half the time, wrap my hair up
funny.
with like just a little something on so I don't look hella crazy. But like with the lashes and being on top of your game, if that was if the children were incorporated in that and you have two boys and it's like, yo, I'm doing this as a single parent now and I'm still on my fashion shit, run the numbers up. Like there's so many women that I know could relate to that because they're sitting in a place of being at home, being stressed out, working with 2, 3, 4 kids and wanting to be fashionable, wanting to wear lashes, wanting to just feel good about themselves, that I think you could really run bank with that and like touch some hearts. And there's a lot of women even on Instagram or whatever that have businesses and their kids are 100% involved in the business. And that's kind of like their avenue and their thing. But that creates the why for you. Like, that creates like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's for my boys. It's for a bigger purpose. And I'm still a fashionable ass mom while I'm doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could see that. And thank you for the compliments.
You know it. Listen, I tell you all the time.
You do.
I don't know.
You be like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, shit, I don't know how I do it.
I don't know what it is, but I've been drinking episode. I didn't see you had to drink yet. I'm drinking like I'm the parent. I'm drinking like I got kids to report too.
No, yeah. I mean, I have a little something. I'm not going too crazy.
I'm like, woo.
I know it. Yes, yes, me. It's hard. It's definitely hard. I would say for any of you guys out there without children, I would definitely say um make sure they're it feels like the right time when you want to have kids and never rush into it. And if it happens, it happens. It might mean that it is your time. You just don't even know it. That's just the
Right.
way your life is winding up. And at the it's still a blessing. It's the hardest job in the world, but it's the most rewarding, which is so crazy
Mm-hmm.
because it's legit the hardest freaking job. And it's a job that never ends. Like I go back to what you said earlier about the being an adult and you still like your mom still parents you. You know what I mean? And
Right.
they're always going to be there for you. You only get one set of parents. Whether
Mm-hmm.
they're around or not, you legit only get one set of parents. That's it.
Right. And that was actually my next question. I know there's so many things that are rewarding about being a mother, but what do you find is like, or has been your highlight in the past like 8 years with MJ going back
Mm.
and like what was like a pivotal moment where you're like, damn, yo, I'm a mom. I'm scared
When they
too.
came out my coochie,
I was present.
you were present for both.
That was a moment for me. I was like, is this
Whoa.
happening?
He was like, whoa,
Oh, shit.
it can
I'm
get
like,
that
I didn't even
big.
know a vagina could get that big. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, literally below fish
Yes.
status. I was like, how do the lips get that big? Like, how is that humanly possible?
I know. It's so crazy. And it's so crazy because I know you guys videotaped Aiden's birth. And I just watched it the other day. Like I sit back and I watch it and I'm like, even though it's disgusting as it looks, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe because I look at it as a reminder, like, yo, I did that shit. Like I did, and I be sometimes like low key in the mirror, like, yo, you have fucking babies. Like nigga, you could do whatever the fuck you want. Like, go take this damn shot. Like, go have them, stick the speculum in your vagina. Like, you good. You can do whatever because you pushed out a human being. Like, I feel like Superwoman sometimes. I'm like, this is crazy. I can do anything.
Right.
But I think the most rewarding piece of it is just when I look at them and I see so much of myself in them, even though they have their own personalities. And I
Mm-hmm.
have very different relationships with either of them. MJ's a lot like his dad in many ways, but he still has a lot of my qualities, his damn mouth. Aiden is so much like me, and he is like party, 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 like at 4. Like he is
Yeah.
just the crazy, crazy kid. So just seeing the aspects in their life, the things that they have about themselves that I'm like, yo, that's me. Like, or that was me as a kid. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I see my little self. And knowing like this unconditional love there. Like they really
Mm-hmm.
make me laugh. And I'm like, yo, these are my homies,
Yeah.
and having boys as a woman is a different it's a different dynamic of having when you have girls. You know what I mean? It's a different relationship with your boys. And I feel like they really like look out for you. They'll always choose their mom. And they're just so loving with you. And just having them hug you and run up to you and kiss you and be like, I love you. I'm like, oh, like no man is ever gonna be able to do that for me the way my
Right.
kids do it for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I remember just wanting to have a daughter. One I wanted to just do her hair.
Yes, and dress her up. That's the only reason why
Because
I
that
wanted
was
one too.
always my dreams and aspirations was to own a hair salon, multi-unit salon, but dress her up, do her hair, and the other thing I always think about is like if I had a child, I would just want to know what it would look like, but
You
like
always
have
think
to
that.
go through the process. I don't know, but I want to know what he or she would look like.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to make sure these kids look cute. And they're so handsome. I'm like, my babies are so handsome. Because when Aiden came out, he was so not cute at all. And I'm like, oof, whose
I
child is
didn't
this?
know who you slept with to make a child.
He didn't look like me
Oh,
or his
who?
father. Like, I'm like, who is, and I show people his baby pictures. They're like, who's that? I'm like, that's Aiden. Like, he looks so different. Now
Yeah.
he looks like a lot more like us. But I'm like, this kid is
Different.
you know. Yes.
I told Stacy she would be such a great mom. I know you. So I was a mama's boy. Oh, that's that. Thank you.
Thank you.
He did tell me that he's around me like 99.9% of my time right now. And that was like a huge compliment. And
I think you
I was
would
like,
too.
Lisa said the same thing. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, no, I don't think I'll be turned up. But now, like after hearing it from you and you know, hearing it from Zap, and he's a man, so like to hear that from him is like, okay, I think I would be.
I think you
Okay.
absolutely would. You have a very caring spirit and heart, and I think that you definitely have that selfishness, but we all do, you know, and it's okay because even now sometimes I still have that where I'm like, nah, I want to go out, like fuck that. But that's just the person I am, you know what I mean? That's just the people that we are. But you still find a way to make it work. Like I'll turn up in here with the kids all day if I had to. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, nah, it's party time. Y'all better get it together. Like we have the music going, y'all dancing, I'm dancing, we in here with the mics, like we are just having a whole party right now, like dance off. So let's get lit together. You drink your apple juice, I drink my tequila, like we good.
Leave it up to Aiden. Aiden be in there drinking the tequila too.
He loves the limes. He'd be like, let me get the lime out the tequila.
Come on, I'll give you the lime for the tequila. It'll be all right.
Lord. Yes.
So I think to almost close it out, because the another thing we had on the list and is relevant for a lot of people, because people utilize babysitters and nannies and such to take care of and be the provider, especially like now that COVID is looking like it's starting to wrap up and things are starting to open back up. People are going back to work. Some people, you know, there are many businesses that will run remotely because they figure out a way to cut that operational cost.
Absolutely.
You know, I know you for the most part have always taken care of the boys, you and Shay, but there's times where you had to bring a nanny in, like we going to a concert, we doing something. You know, what do you recommend in terms of looking for the right nanny or babysitter and like something to try to avoid or what you learned?
I think well, first off, I really went through the process of, do I want to go through a site or do I want to try to find people within my circle or that are extended outside of that circle where they were referrals or recommendations? Because, you know, with your kids, they're your most precious, like, things, you know, they're these precious beings. And it's very hard to trust people with your kids. So we took the route of family where we could, friends, and just making a list of all those people that are in your life that you can have and say, always advance, you know, hey, I have this going on. Can you take them on this day? Can you take them on this day for this many hours? Um, do you know someone who has babysit your kids, and kind of building that foundation there and that connection? I tried the like onlinecare.com thing and I felt like I was on a dating site and I didn't like it because I'm like scrolling and, you know, they have the reviews and I just didn't trust it. And I know that that has worked for other people, but I didn't trust that at all. So just really having that list of contacts and friends, you know, my friends support me a lot through it, you know, especially when you have friends with other kids and, you know, as they get older, having that trade off, you know, trade off with each other. It can't be one way street where you're only watching my kids and I don't watch your kids. So trying to create that balance, but having a list beforehand of names of people that you trust within your family, especially if you don't have, like, we don't have parents really that are there. You know, their father has his mother, but she's only one person. You know, that can only help. And usually the grandparents are the go-to people for that. You know, and some people are so blessed to have that where the grandparents are like, drop them off anytime, go, get away, da da da. We don't have that. So
my mom thinks she's going to be that person, by the way.
Your mom would be that person. I'm
Lisa?
like, she's already telling me, like, when you bringing the boys by, don't tell me twice because I will drop them off.
She's a Libra too. So she'll be that person for a hot second and then be like, come get this kid.
Yep. Because she was like, how's the babies? I'm like, they are great. You can have them anytime.
That's because she's getting older and getting lonely and bored.
Yep.
So I'm like,
That's
I'll
fine.
mess around, have a whole child.
They'll
And
be.
this lady will watch the child for a week or two. Like, you know what? It's on you, boo.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Nope.
No, I love my mom. She's crazy. I love her though.
Mm-hmm.
She's very supportive. She took care of my niece's sons for
sure did. Like
a
that
while,
takes
so.
that takes a lot.
Yeah.
That takes a lot from a person to do that. Like your mother is. That's where you get a lot of that spirit from. You know, your mom.
Mm-hmm. We be turned with BK. Yeah, BK's my child.
Who's BK?
I'll tell you that story later.
Okay. Oh Lord.
Perfect. Anything we missed?
I
know we didn't even really go based on our notes or what we had, but if you're just tuning in, this is Nyce Kicks. You missed this episode, but you can always rewind to the beginning and watch this. If you've been here with us the entire episode, thank you so much. Like, we
appreciate
really appreciate you guys dearly. Again, we do this every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and you know, we hope to continue to bring topics to the forefront that are engaging, entertaining, that you guys can learn from. And a big part of Nyce Kicks, honestly, is the comments and being able to engage with the audience. So shout out to Racine and shout out to Outlet LA.
Absolutely.
Alive, who are here and engaging with us in real time. So we appreciate that. And I'm excited about next week's episode. I'm very excited. Nice women and nice men finish last. Because that's a hot topic.
Yep.
So that'd be quite interesting.
I think they do. Yep.
Yep.
I think they do. Yep. But they always come out on top.
Y'all are being too nice.
Yes. But they come out on top, though. I'll tell you that.
For facts.
Yes.
So.
Oh, well, as always, I miss you, your crazy self.
Candace!
Wasn't she on the solo cup joint?
Yes, Candace is on
Yes,
solo
hi
cup.
Candace, what's up?
Yes, she said, oh, that's a good one. Yep.
Nice, sure is.
Finish last. It'll be interesting. So hopefully you'll be there with us next week live. Candace, thank you for getting on this live. I totally appreciate it. I'll see you soon, hopefully tomorrow. And me, yep, you know, I miss you too, but you'll be here in a snaps moment because fucking Louviana is coming. June will be here before we blink. So
yeah, time is flying.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. All right, y'all. Well, thank you again. Tuning in. I'll be last. I'm too nice. I can't.
Cut it out.
All right.
Save it for next week's episode. I doubt that's the case.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
All right. Love y'all much. Thank you for tuning in.
Love y'all.
We'll see y'all next week.
Deuces.